This organization is a shining example of what Connie Birnbaum stood for and lived for. Unity is more than a phrase in Judaism. Unity is a core concept of Judaism. There was only one precondition throughout our history for every great miracle that occurred to the Jewish people. Only one, and that was Achdut, Jewish unity. When Jews were united, we could overcome any challenge. When Jews were disunited, every challenge was too great. From when we stood at Mount Sinai, ki ish echad b'lev echad, as one people with one heart, to the rescue of Russian Jews and Ethiopian Jews and Syrian Jews and Yemeni Jews and Iranian Jews and Iraqi Jews, came about when we put aside our differences, when we felt what was in each other's hearts, when we leaped across the boundaries, when we realized that the whole is far greater than the sum of the parts. What unites us is far greater than whatever divides us. It doesn't mean that we should do away with differences. We have to respect them. But we also have to recognize that the Jewish people is like a body, and when one part of that body is infected, all parts feel it. That everybody, every part of that body, is impacted. Achdus, Jewish unity. Shalom Beinechem. And that is what I believe Connie strove for and worked for. And as I read about her, the more I read, the more I realized how much this really fits into both the theme and into my own life's goals.
So tonight, as we think about unity, let us think about diversity within unity. Let's not be struck by the slogan. Let's develop a practice so that we can actually not only talk about our unity, but to feel the strength of our diversity that is undergirded by our sense of unity. And when you meet a person in your life who has that gift, as Connie Birnbaum had that gift, we know it is not a slogan. It can, in fact, be a way of life.
The reason we don't surrender to gloom and doom is that every one of us can step up and take personal responsibility to make things better. That's the spirit of this evening. When Connie Birnbaum faced her illness and faced her sadness, she said, Ika Ana, I am here. I'm going to build bridges. I'm going to spread love. I'm going to create peace. When the Birnbaum family lost Connie, what did you do? You each stood up and said, Ika Ana, you've created this spot on the Jewish calendar. When we all get together for study and repair.
I'm really happy to be here. I'm really quite moved and honored. I always came to this, as Herb and his family knows, I came every year to the Connie Spear Birnbaum Memorial Lecture. And to be able to be here in celebration of one of those women who I'm going to be talking about tonight, women needing change, is very, very, very special. We all miss Connie, and all of us who knew her hold her in our hearts with deep regard. It's really such a perfect homage to a loving woman who dedicated her life to family, the Jewish community, and to encouraging positive change in the world. As Herb mentioned, Connie, in her relatively short life, was not only a devoted wife and mother, but also a woman dedicated to the spirit of Kalal Yisrael. As Herbie said, she worked with Northeastern University's Hillel, Jewish Federation, Jerusalem Dental Volunteers, and her work at the Synagogue Council to promote and improve relations among various communities of Jews, which I know from my own experience as Executive Director of JCRC is no easy task. She was not one to shy away from challenge, and she certainly showed that in her role as coordinator of the flagship unity project.
Saharayim Tovim, good afternoon. And to our speaker who joins us from Israel, Erev Tov, good evening. I am Elizabeth Pressman, co-president of the Synagogue Council. Along with co-president Craig Schneider, our board of directors, and lecture founder Dr. Herbert Birnbaum, I am pleased to welcome you to this, the Chai 18th annual lecture in memory of Connie Spear Birnbaum. We have just enjoyed some beautiful music, special memories of past Birnbaum lectures, and photos of Connie. Our keynote speaker, Yossi Klein Halevi of the Hartman Institute in Jerusalem, will engage us with a timely and thoughtful talk and discussion on the topic, Holding the Jewish Center. Many thanks to Herb Birnbaum and his family for creating this program and supporting it for 18 years. We value Benji Birnbaum's ability over the years to find just the right speaker for many of the lectures. We also appreciate the time and thoughts of the lecture committee in creating this program and the generosity and many hours of skilled work from Larry Sandberg and Dan Goldish. We are delighted that you are with us today to honor Connie's legacy, to celebrate 18 years of the lecture, to learn from our speaker, and to be together. It is now my pleasure to introduce our honorary chair of this event, Alan Tepero, founding executive director of the council, who served for 33 years in that position. Alan?
Thank you, Elizabeth, and thanks to you, Craig and Gretchen, for your wonderful leadership. Bereshit. In the beginning, Herbie and I met on the street outside Temple Emmanuel in Newton. He was walking home from shul on Shavuot, and fortuitously, I was leaving my synagogue when we bumped into one another. It was there that the idea for the creation of a lecture in memory of his wife, Connie, was first discussed. Having worked at the Synagogue Council for 7 years as coordinator of Unity programming, Connie lovingly recruited mission participants and shepherded them through the Unity mission experience, expressed by many as a major transformative event in their lives. As a result of that Shavuot discussion, the Birnbaum family established a fund at SEM to enable Connie's commitment to Jewish education and Klal Yisrael to continue as a living legacy. The inaugural Connie Spear Birnbaum Memorial Lecture was held on a snowy evening in January 2004 at Congregation Beth El Atereth Israel in Newton. The gifted Torah scholar and speaker, Dr. Norman Lamb, Chancellor of Yeshiva University, was our inaugural lecturer. Now, close to 18 years later, thousands of people in the greater Boston Jewish community have come together across denominational lines to hear from some of the most prominent and inspirational scholars of our time, always in an atmosphere of openness, inclusion, and mutual support. Please join us in a retrospective to celebrate the early years of this amazing program and to honor Connie's lasting legacy.
So the question is now, which is it? Which is it, unity or diversity of opinion? And the answer is generally diversity of opinion. It expands our horizons as ideas are tested, as tried in the crucible of contrariety of contrary opinions. But, as Rabbeinu said, it must be l'shem shamayim. Yes, machlokas, yes, controversy, but not for ulterior motives, only for the sake of...
Know that you live in a special Jewish community. I assume you do, but for those of us who have been involved in the Jewish communal world for many years, Boston has always been a community that we always look to analyze and emulate in so many ways, but mostly because you could be giving this talk tonight. There is no community in North America that has worked more, thought more, and struggled in joyous ways more with defining community and finding.
Synagogues during particularly the worst years of the polarization that all but tore our people apart in America in the 1980s and the 1990s. The Massachusetts Council of Synagogues was for me a beacon of light, and the unity mission was a very special moment in my year, because what the council represented was not to give in to historical forces, the forces, very powerful forces of polarization and separation and mutual rejection.
I asked one of the students in words that I really have not forgotten, why is it you came on this trip? And this student, who was a student at Chovevei Torah, modern Orthodox yeshiva, said to me, well, I came on this trip because I need to know what the midot are, what the qualities are that I need la'amod lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I need to know the qualities that I need to possess in order to stand before God. I think that's a question that confronts all of us. So that as I conclude my remarks tonight, I would say to you that whatever the differences are that distinguish us in regard to ideology, and I would never want to downplay them, whatever the distinctions are that then emerge in regard to positions, in regard to gays and lesbians, in regard to the place of women in our religious tradition, these are all very real distinctions. Nevertheless, what I think does unite us is a common set of sociological challenges and conditions, and that what does unite us is that all of us, from a religious perspective, have to all attempt to answer this question of what does it mean, what are the qualities that are required to stand before God.
Part of this program of the Synagogue Council of Massachusetts, because I am so pleased that the Greater Boston Jewish community has a Synagogue Council of Massachusetts, uniting conservative, Orthodox, and Reform synagogues and synagogue leaders. Not every city has one. Very few cities have one, because not every city has the kind of Jewish leadership to get over the institutional pettiness that keeps it from happening in so many other places. We have it, and we have every reason to be proud of it.
It's a tremendous honor for me to be able to participate here to honor your mother, your sister, Connie Birnbaum. And what's striking to me, it's not infrequent in my life that I am speaking at an endowed memorial lecture. What is uncommon is that the life of the person who's being memorialized was so tied in with the themes of the evening and with the theme of the organization for which she worked. Because clearly this broad-based love was such a part of Connie Birnbaum, and the whole idea of tolerance and acceptance and the right of others to think differently exactly is what epitomizes the organization.
We are family. And that legacy of what it means to be mishpacha, whether or not we've been related for 1,000 years or we've never been related, that's Connie's legacy. Her legacy is that every Jew is my sister, every Jew is my brother, that we're one people, we're one Am. The word Am Yisrael.
The locus of Jewish eternity. It has been and remains the most successful institution for the mass transmittal of Jewish identity that we have ever known. Quantitatively, it remains so even today, as the single most important way Jews connect to Judaism. The synagogue is the primary hub of Jewish experience, where everything in Jewish life intersects.
isolated from one another, when there is no Iron Curtain, when there is no KGB, that we will keep this unique feeling of unity, that we are one, that we can have thousands of different organizations which don't talk to one another. But in the end, we are one. We are one in our history, we are one in our faith, we are one in our role of Tikkun Olam, we are one in our support of Israel. Thank you.
Because we are celebrating Israel's 70th birthday this month, I don't want to simply talk about the challenges Israel faces. I want to explain why I am so optimistic about Israel's future. I heard that said Connie was an optimist, that her glass was always overflowing. So when people think about Israel, we focus on the problems. It's hard for Jews to hear good news about Israel. We tend to see the glass as 1/16 empty. But it's full. In fact, it's overflowing. And there are many reasons for optimism.
I have to say to you, my friend, that this is exactly, if Connie was still alive today, this is exactly what Connie would have wanted to do. This is a day of powerful remembrance because this is a day where two communities essentially fought together, bled together, argued together, and in the case of Mickey Schwerner and Andrew Goodman, died together, and so many others. Practicing the principle of Tikkun Olam and the principle of the Black Church, of communities working together for change and justice and fairness, and putting their lives on the line against domestic terrorists who did everything in their power. They kidnapped, they firebombed, they shot, and harmed people, to keep people from actually celebrating the simple act of voting. Not only is this a day that Blacks and Jews must embrace each other, and because what we did together was significant.
Thank you so much, Councillor Campbell. Thank you, Horace, and a special thank you to Herbie for including me in this incredibly meaningful event. What a privilege to honor Connie's memory in this way. We, humanity, have inherited a shattered world in which it's our job to put those pieces back together, to find those sparks of light and to lift them up. We are the repairers, the completers of creation. That, by the way, is one of the places where the idea of tikkun olam, repairing the world, comes from. Our Black and Jewish communities have a long history of coming together during times of crisis and in the face of injustice and working toward that repair. We have marched and fought alongside one another for fair housing, improved education, civil rights, honoring the very real ways that our stories and experiences differ, yet animated by our shared commitment to human dignity and by our empathy for one another's histories of oppression. For both of our communities, our history is inseparable from our spiritual obligation to serve and to heal.
We are stronger when we're together. Imagine what we could do if we brought all of our efforts together. We are tied in faith. We are tied in struggle. We're tied in history. And we must be tied together in our future. So I say we must celebrate today, but the work is not yet complete. We must celebrate, but we must stand together and ensure that we are turning out the vote. And more importantly, that we're transforming the way we do work collaboratively. So I leave you on this day, not only with that charge, but hopefully with this charge that we can live up to the words of the Psalter, which says how good and how pleasant it is for brothers and sisters to dwell together in unity. It is a call to action for us to come together, to encourage our communities to see the mutual destiny that we have. And I do believe when we reach that goal, when we bring folks together, when we acknowledge that the divide between us can be erased, when we do that, we can sing in that old Negro hymn, we shall overcome.